So good afternoon, everyone. It's 12:58. We've got a couple more minutes before we get started. If you can hear me and if you can see me, go ahead and just put your name in the chat there so that I know that you're here. All right, awesome. Got Doug Daniel from Cross Ministries and Jason Cardwell from Cardwell Insurance, and looks like Rod is here from Foothills Physical Therapy, a number of others. So glad to have all of you all here. Again, we've got just a couple of more minutes before the official start. We'll give everybody a few more minutes to get in place here. So as I had mentioned while we're waiting for everybody, this particular webinar is going to be about cyber scams that we are seeing that are really popular this year, specifically for folks that like big money scams, scams that we've actually seen businesses lose $50,000 or even more. So if you have any questions, or if you have a specific question that you want me to address, you're more than welcome to go ahead and put that in the chat box, and I'll be happy to come around back to that. But otherwise, I've got definitely 3 or 4 things that are on kind of the top of the list here. Some things I've talked about before. Some of you have been on other cybersecurity seminars that I have done, or webinars that I've done, either one. You probably have seen maybe 1 or 2 of these, but there's a couple of others that have gotten to be very popular, and to the point where they've gotten very expensive for small businesses. So we'll be talking about all of those here very shortly. Let's give everybody just another minute. I see I've got lots of people here. Melinda is here from Mindy Marketing. Good to have you. Just so you know, Melinda is actually going to be our co-host next month, and we're going to be talking about websites that convert. And so actually, for those of you that don't know, this is actually part of a summer-long series of webinars. In fact, let me share my screen real quick on all the webinars that we have coming up. So as you can see, today we're going to be talking about cybercrimes. Next week, Melinda's going to be helping us out with websites that turn visitors into paying customers. The month after that, in May, we're going to be talking about using AI to help you drive more sales. In June, we're going to be talking about company culture. Then I've got in July, I'm trying to arrange this right now, but I've got an expert in cyber liability insurance, and she's going to be talking about cyber liability insurance. And I've got one more in August that I haven't quite finished putting together, but we've got one more that's gonna happen in August as well. So as you can see, we have quite a few webinars that I'm hoping are going to be helpful for all businesses, and not just technology related, but specifically just to hopefully do well with your business. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get going here. Let me get my slideshow back up. And oh, there we go. There's my, couldn't find my controls. Found my controls. So again, most of you probably already know me. My name is Thomas Hill. I'm the owner of CD Technology. I have been in the technology business for over 25 years and have been specializing in helping small businesses with take care of their IT security and their help desk needs for the past 10 years. And so I'm really glad to have every one of you here with me today, and I hope that you'll learn something. So I always start all my webinars and seminars, everything that I do, with this particular quote from Andy Grove. Andy Grove was probably one of the most important CEOs at Intel. So Intel actually used to be a memory business, and Andy completely changed the focus of Intel to make processors. And so we have Andy to thank for who Intel is today. But he has quoted as saying, "Success breeds complacency. Complacency breeds failure. Only the paranoid survive." And so I always like to start out with this quote because a lot of you may think by the end of this seminar that I'm one paranoid guy. And to be perfectly honest with you, I am a little paranoid because this is stuff that's actually happening and that we see happen on a regular basis. This particular slide here, we're talking about. So how many of you think that you're too small to be hacked by a cyber criminal? Raise your hand or put in the chat. Yep, you're too small. The thing is I always tell people you're not too small to be hacked. You're just too small to make the news. And the sad thing of it is that we see on the news every single day. We saw Children's Hospital get ransom attacked. We saw the city of Knoxville get ransom attacked. We see all of these big businesses get ransom attacks. What you don't hear about is you don't hear about the small companies. You don't hear about it's very rare to hear about the very small mom and pop companies, the ones that are making $1 million, $2 million a year in sales, which makes up most of our economy, by the way. So this chart kind of shows that 93% of our economy is of our businesses out there are doing $2 million or less in sales. And what this chart shows you that within that 2 million spectrum, anywhere the average loss from cyber criminals anywhere, and this was last year's statistics, anywhere from $45,000 to $72,000. And I'm going to show you exactly how cyber criminals are doing that. So the number one way that cyber criminals are taking money from businesses are through ACH scams. And I actually saw this in real life with a company, a roofing company actually, that about 18 months ago or so, they contacted me and said, "Hey, we had an incident. They were not a customer at the time, and they said basically what happened was that one of their people's email accounts, they were using Office 365 to send out invoices, and that's how they sent out all their invoices to their customers. And the person that was in charge of, their bookkeeper basically, that was in charge of sending out invoices and that kind of thing, she, somehow had gotten her email, account hacked, and we're still not 100% sure how that happened, but it could have happened in a number of different ways through, phishing scams of any number of kinds or whatever. Anyway, and the hacker basically saw, how they did business, which the way that they did business was when a job was coming to an end, they would send out an invoice the day before and say, "Hey, we're going to be finishing up your job tomorrow. We need to go ahead and get the balance of the payment and, have a check ready for, X amount of dollars, or you can pay by credit card or something like that." And so in this particular instance, the cyber criminal saw the emails going back and forth about the job coming to an end, but they sent out an invoice that looked like the invoices that they would normally send out, except that it had some different information on it. What it had on it was, "Hey, the balance on your roof is $22,500. If you pay by ACH, we'll give you a 10% discount." So they're kind of working on that idea that a lot of people think that, well, if you pay by credit card, it costs more. So if you pay by other methods, it'll cost less money. And in this situation, the the cyber criminals said, well, if you pay by ACH and go ahead and click this link here and pay by ACH, then you'll save 10% instead of $20,000. It'll be $19,000 or $18,000, whatever it was. And so the customer went ahead and took advantage of that. Basically thought, oh, well, $2,000 discount just by paying by ACH instead of writing a check or giving them a credit card. And so they did. And so the company came out and they finished the roof. And at the end of it, they said, hey, we need to go ahead and get paid. Can we go ahead and collect the check? And customers said, well, I've already paid. And of course, the roofing company was confused. And after looking into it further, they realized that, customer showed them the email. And the problem is, a lot of you will say, well, the customer was wrong because they paid, a fake invoice. The problem is they did pay a fake invoice, but the fake invoice came from inside the company. Because the fake invoice came from inside the company was therefore responsible for that loss, and that company ultimately lost that $20,000. And we've seen this happen, again and again. And I've seen amounts. We had one that was during COVID that was $56,000. And so I have seen this again and again, same type of thing. So this is the kind of scam that you need to watch out for. Now, there's other types of scams, like impersonation scams. So, this is a type of scam that, so in the last example, the cyber criminal had gotten into the email account, and so therefore the company was responsible for it. There's other ways that this same scam can play out. In fact, this is a real email that I received last year, and I received it from Anderson County government, and I've done business with Anderson County government before. And this is an email that looks like it came from Anderson County government. If you take a look at it, everything's real on this particular email, but this email is fake. So this Catherine, if you look her up, at the time she was actually the purchasing agent for the county of Anderson County. That was her contact information and everything. There's one key difference though, and that is if this was actually Anderson County government, then it would have ended in .gov. As you can see, this ends in .org. Now, again, I know because I've done business with this organization before, and I knew that in my email list it should have been .gov. It did take me a few minutes though. I had to look at this. In fact, I even responded to this email and saying, "Hey, what is it that you're looking for?" And then when they responded back with what they were looking for, it didn't really line up with what they usually get from us. And so it kind of made my spidey senses kind of go off a little bit. And I started to look at it a little bit more, and I realized, oh, this is not actually going to who I thought it was going to. So this is what we call an impersonation email. So in this situation, if the impersonation email had gone out looking like it was the roofing company, and it could look like the roofing company in a number of different ways. If they had just changed like one letter in it, or any. In other words, what they could do is that they would buy a domain, and instead of it being, like I said before, .gov, they bought .org, or they could change. A popular one is to change the I and make it an L, if there's an I in the Anderson or something like that, or another email address. So just by changing the name up a little bit, then that makes a big difference. And that's what we call an impersonation email. So if the impersonation email had come from outside the organization, then it would have been on the customer's fault, and they would have lost the money. So that's a big important type of thing to kind of keep in mind, that these kind of things do exist, and so you need to make sure that you scrutinize all of the different mails and that kind of thing that are out there. Okay, so another attack that we see is called the CEO whaling attack. So what's interesting about this, and this has gotten a little bit high tech with AI here. In fact, I was just at the Cerebral Chamber, and somebody was asking me, what is the good and the bad of AI? And I answered, well, the good of AI is that it helps us to actually stop cyber criminals, more easily. the bad of AI is that it gives cybercriminals tools to better impersonate the people that they want to impersonate. And so we'll kind of talk about that a little bit. So a whaling attack is basically where um, somebody is trying to trick an employee of an organization to make them believe that the cyber criminal is actually the CEO, and they're asking the employee to do something that maybe they wouldn't normally do, or maybe they do on a regular basis, and they just, this is a one-off kind of thing where they're trying to get them to send a wire transfer or an ACH for money that needs to be paid or something of that nature. And this can happen again a number of different ways. So in this particular chart here, you kind of see where the actual organization uses user.payments at xyz.com, and as opposed to the cyber criminal purchased user underscore payments at xyz.com. So again, the cyber criminal is trying to impersonate somebody, and a lot of times it's whoever the CEO is, or maybe someone else in the in the organization. So and how that looks in real life. This is an actual email from from a real life type of one. It says, hey Bob, I need you to distribute a wire transfer for me as soon as possible. The detailed instructions can be found here. I need to have this done quickly. Um, and a lot of you probably have seen things like this and thought, well, I wouldn't fall victim to that. But in a real life situation, we had a customer several years ago that the company we were protecting the company with our services, and so the computers were pretty locked down, and we felt confident about the security of those. But the CEO's personal email account was not being protected by us. It was his home account, and he didn't have it under contract with us. And what we found out later is that a cyber criminal had gotten into the CEO's account, and if you all are all busy people, just like I am, I'm sure. And so what you do is you probably have your home account linked to your business account, and they probably share the same calendar. I know on my calendar it's a hot mess. I've got all of my business stuff that's on there, and then everything that is home type stuff is on there as well. Our spring break trip, for example, is on there for next week. So anyway, what happened was the cyber criminal got into the email account of the business owner at their home, their personal email account, and because it was linked to the calendar, they were able to see the calendar, and nobody really knows how long they were in his personal account, but the cyber criminal saw that there was the CEO and his family was going on a trip. They were going on a trip to Hawaii. They were leaving Sunday afternoon and would not be back for 10 days. And so basically what happened was Monday morning, bright and early, the cyber criminal crafted an email from the personal account of this company, the CEO of this company, and it went something like, "Hey, Bob, I was in such a hurry to get out of town. Um, we almost missed our flight to Hawaii. LOL. Anyway, I forgot that I was supposed to tell you that we need to send a $75,000 wire transfer to this company for a deposit that we're fixing to need to go ahead and get paid so we can get the product on shipment, and they're not going to ship it until we've got the deposit down. So I need you to take care of this thing first thing Monday morning. Let me know if there's any problems, kind of thing." So this is the problem. The CFO gets this email. In the email, it comes from his personal account, which maybe is a little bit weird, but not entirely, because in the email it says, well, hey, we're on our way to Hawaii, so he has no reason to think that it's not his boss, because the story kind of checks out. But long story short, the CFO went ahead and wired the money. And Wednesday morning, the CEO calls in to see how everything's going and kind of thing. And CFO says, "Hey, everything's going great. I've got it all under control. I went ahead and took care of that wire transfer for you. So I'm sure the shipment will be on its way." And of course, the CEO at that point realizes, what do you mean, what wire transfer? And from there, the rest of his vacation is pretty much ruined because they literally lost $75,000 on that particular deal. So that's how a CEO attack works. Now, let me twist this a little bit because it kind of goes back to what I was talking about AI, and that is, well, so how is AI changing this? Well, one way that AI is changing this is that cyber criminals are now looking for CEOs that do a lot of this kind of thing. So they're looking for CEOs that have a lot of webinars, or they do a lot of public speaking and that kind of thing, and they're taking their voice and they're building an AI voice. So I have no doubt that there's probably a cyber criminal out there right now that is taking my voice and perhaps making it into their own little robotic voice. The scary thing is, and I don't have a way to play an audio on here, but I played one for a live seminar that I did just a couple of weeks ago, and it's crazy. With just literally like 5 minutes worth of training to this AI voice recorder, it was able to recreate the voice to near perfection. And so now what we're seeing is the cyber criminals just calling in and saying, "Hey, Bob, it's Thomas. I completely forgot. I needed you to send this wire transfer ASAP. Can you go ahead and get that done? I'll send over the email for it to give you the specifics, that kind of thing." So, that's kind of the scary thing. That's definitely something new that we're seeing in 2024 for sure. Is how AI is making our life a little more complicated by by recreating our voices. And I have no doubt that video is right behind it. I mean, it's already there, but it's just not as easily attainable. I'm sure it'll be much more attainable here in the not so distant future. So the funny thing is, well, how do you protect against that? I mean, there's no endpoint security or anything like that I can sell you guys to make that work. And so the best thing to do is have some kind of a safe word, believe it or not. If there's ever a transaction that needs to happen, you probably need to have a discussion with your executive team ahead of time that says, hey, in order to verify who I am, we need to decide on the same word. And so, that may literally be, just a normal kind of thing that gets written into a security protocol going forward. So anyway, super interesting for sure. So the last big thing that I want to talk about is called pig butchering. Now, pig butchering is interesting because, for one thing, it's big money right now. And the way that pig butchering basically works is that scammers look for victims, and they look for victims of multitude of different ways. It could be, it really started out on dating sites where, people were pretending to be people that, cyber criminals were pretending to be either men or women that were, looking to date, real people out in the world. But I've actually, since then it has gone on to being just in chat rooms and Facebook friends. When you get these people when you get people that want on Facebook that says, hey, we should get to know each other. Or in fact, I just saw one just this morning that said, hey, I feel like Facebook is always telling us that we know each other. Is there some reason that we know each other? I mean, have we, like, so this was actually a cyber criminal, making it sound like that we should be friends just because Facebook says that we should be friends, making that suggestion basically. And so, what's super interesting about that is so that's just another way. But there's a lot of other ways. So other chat rooms that you might be members of, investment groups or whatever. You've got to be careful of the people that you're talking with because they may not actually be real people. So anyway, so scammers look for potential victims. Once they find the potential victims, then they basically fatten them up. Okay, and there's a lot of different ways that they can fatten them up. A lot of times, they'll just start off, and this is a long game, by the way. So you're not going to lose your money overnight. The first interaction with the cyber criminal in this particular situation. This is a situation where you're going to lose a lot of money, typically within months. Okay, and the scary thing is depending on how long it goes on, um, you could actually get some of your friends wrapped up in this as well, and I'll kind of show you how that works. But basically, once you start off this conversation, and whether that's happening on a dating site or whether you think you have a Facebook friend that you think you know from someplace but you really don't, um, the conversation just kind of goes on, and then sooner or later, this says something to the nature of, "Hey, I just made a whole bunch of money on this particular investment site. It's cryptocurrency, or that's usually the most popular one is cryptocurrency because nobody really understands cryptocurrency, and we hear in the news all the time how people are making great amount of money on cryptocurrency, and so because we don't know about it, it's easy um, to flex so that the cyber criminals make it sound appealing. And so they'll basically say, yeah, use the site and check it out. I got $5,000. I put in $10,000 a month ago, and I got 5,000 back today. And I still have $10,000 there, so I made 5,000 in interest or something like that. And so what ends up happening is usually what happens is the person that they're trying to scam will be like, oh well, that's kind of cool, tell me the site, and they'll show them the link to the site. The thing is what they'll do is they'll copy a real site, like a real cryptocurrency site or a real investment site of some kind, and then but they'll rename it, again, just one letter off or something like that, and they'll say, well, this is the site, and it's actually a fake site. But when they get on that fake site, um, they have it set up so that you can invest your money and watch it grow. And in fact, I've even seen scams where they will say, "Hey, um, you know, I want to go ahead and cash out my money," and they'll let you cash it out and show like a profit, and if you cash it out and they're like, oh well, you made $1,000, let's invest $10,000 or let's invest $100,000. And then sadly, that's where, and so the sad part is the fattening up is where they allow you to cash it out so that it feels like it's real. And then when it feels like it's real, two things happen. You'll invest more money into it, but you also start telling your friends and neighbors. Okay. And so that's how you can actually get tied up into a pig butchering scheme and not even realize it. So you may have a friend that you have lunch with, every other week, and they're like, yeah, this investment side, I put $1,000 into it, I made $1,500 off of it. I mean, I got the money and everything, and they convince you that this is a good website. And what ends up happening is your friend ends up luring several other innocent people into this, and they end up investing money. And then usually, once the cyber criminal feels like that they've got as much money invested into this fake um, investment site, they'll just turn it off and disappear. And you'll click onto it one day, and it just won't even be there. There's no um, you know there's nothing to believe that it was ever there before. And the scary thing about this is that very the average amount that people are losing on this are 100,000 plus, because people are putting their life savings in here. There's so many articles out there that talks about they put in their 100,000 retirement fund or 200,000 or even more, and like I said, maybe you weren't even the friend, you just you invest in this just because you have a real life friend that got caught up in it, and then because they got caught up into it, you got caught up into it. So that's why I bring this up. It's something that you do have to be aware of because it's huge money right now, cyber criminals. And and I have a couple of examples on here of people that are just you know, just these are just kind of everyday conversations. Hey, just want to know about your trip to Europe, and again, these are people that just kind of meet, and what ends up happening is they might meet on Facebook or they might meet on a dating site or whatever, but then they take it offline. And when they take it offline, any of the safety protocols kind of go away. Again, here's a good example here of this particular person saying, yeah, this is the website that we use right here. Again, looks like a real website, but it's really not. So these are all things that you have to be aware of. Again, if anybody has any questions, you're welcome to kind of pop that into the chat. So what are the things that you can do to protect yourself? And we'll kind of start wrapping it up here. And in fact, if I can get Melissa or Rebecca or somebody to go ahead and pick a winner, we'll announce a winner here in just a little bit. Put everybody's name into a drawing, and we'll draw someone's name here in a minute that's going to win the $50 gift card to Aubrey's. So this is a good list of things that every business should have in place. You want to have a good, strong password policy. So one thing that I want to, so if you look at this list here real quick, by the way, one thing that stands out on this list that I think you ought to recognize, because I have a lot of customers or potential customers that I go to and I say, hey, are you being protected? Are you sure you're being protected? And usually the words out of their mouth are something like, oh yeah, we've got good virus protection. So on this list that I have for you here, it actually doesn't mention anything about virus protection at all. In fact, virus protection is probably one of the least important things that we probably sell to most of our customers. Now, it's an important component, but as an overall package, like when we come in and we say, hey, these are the things, this is the package that you need to have in order to stay secure. Endpoint security or virus protection is definitely one of those things, but it's definitely not the most important. Having a good password policy, that's important. Making sure that software is updated on your computers on a regular basis to make sure that there's not any bad software patches. That's important. Making sure that you use multi-factor authentication in order to get into your email accounts. And I could probably have an entire other show on talking about multi-factor authentication and the ways that cyber criminals are actually tricking you into giving them your multi-factor code. That's what we see a lot too. So making sure that you're using multi-factor, but also making sure that you're using it safely. Only signing into secure networks. And education for your employees. I'll be honest with you, that's probably one of the number one things is if you can provide some sort of a cybersecurity educational program that not only, and I'm not talking about this kind of a thing where you do it once a year kind of thing, but I'm talking about, have software set up that will actually send out fake emails to your staff to see if they click on them or not. Actually testing your staff to make sure that they see, what is a good, what is a good, email, safe email, and what is a dangerous phishing email. So education is huge. Making sure that you have off-site backups, like cloud backups. Cloud backups are just incredibly important. So ask your IT provider. If you're wondering yourself, hey, is my IT company keeping me safe right now? Make sure that you ask them. How are you backing up? Are they on site? Are they off site? Just because you have a cloud-based software solution, that doesn't mean that you don't have to worry about backing up. You need to talk with that cloud-based company and say, hey, how can I back up my data in case something happens to you? So that's an important question there. Limit access. So in other words, don't just let everybody have admin access. Make sure that only people that require admin access have admin access. Make sure that you do have a good firewall in place. Um, and then the last two is make sure that you have a good security assessment program in place. That's kind of where we talk about safe word and some other things, and create an incident response plan. So again, here's 5 things right here that um, that is way more than just making sure that you have good virus protection on your computer, because virus protection is not enough anymore. So Joe was asking, so does this mean that all dating sites are dangerous and you should just stay off? I'm not saying that dating sites are dangerous. What I'm saying is that dating sites is just as dangerous as Facebook can be, and that is, you have to understand that people want to be your friend, whether you're on Facebook or a dating site or whatever. And Joe just says this is a joke. But this is a good question, Joe. It really is, because I'm not saying that dating sites are bad. What I'm saying is that um, you know what what um, you have to make sure that you take everything with a grain of salt. And so even if you think that you've got a relationship with somebody and you've had it for a couple of months, that's the long game, and it's very possible that long game could result into something. And so what you don't want to do is, especially if this is someone that you've never met in person, you don't want to um, take that conversation offline, because there are security protocols in place for both Facebook and dating sites and that kind of thing. They have security policies in place online. So if you go offline and go straight to SMS text or some other type of communication factor, that's where people can get into trouble, and so that's where you want to be careful. Let's see here. So I got a question. How often should you back up? So how often you back up kind of depends on your situation. Most of our customers, we recommend that you do a nightly backup. Let me take a sip real quick. The question is, can you, if you have a nightly backup and you lost 1 day's worth of, if you lost 1 day's worth of work, would you be able to survive that? And if the answer is yes, then a nightly backup is fine. If you could recreate all of your data that you lost that day or the day before, is that acceptable risk? For most companies, it is. If your company is really large, where you cannot lose any data at all, then you might need to look at backup solutions that happen much more often. So another question is, I have a number of vendors who send invoices using QuickBooks. Is it safe for me to pay them using ACH and our bank account through QuickBooks? Okay, so the answer is yes, it's perfectly safe to pay those vendors. What you have to watch out for, though, is if those vendors get compromised, and the compromised vendor, the cyber criminal at the compromised vendor sends out a an invoice that looks just like the one you normally pay, except it's been compromised, that's where you get into a problem. Now, so the problem is you might not always realize that off the bat. Now you have to look for inconsistencies. Like if for some reason, the email looks different for some reason, then you might want to question whether that's really the correct email account or it came from the correct person. This is actually a really good reason why you should have cyber liability insurance, because it is very easy to pay an ACH online and get scammed, and that's why every business should have cyber liability insurance. And that is one of the webinars we're going to be talking about here later this summer, is the importance of having good cyber liability insurance. And so I'm going to say, yes, it is safe to do that. You just need to watch out for inconsistencies. Watch out in changes. If something doesn't feel quite right, you need to question it a little bit more. So again, lastly, we do have all these webinars that are coming up, as you can see. And so I want you to kind of, keep an eye on emails that we're going to be sending out and inviting you to. And we hope that each and every one of you will be able to make it to all of them, because we hope that it'll be, a valuable resource. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and draw the name. And it looks like the name is Jerry Embry is our winner of the $50 gift card to Aubrey's. So Jerry, Melissa will be reaching out to you, and she'll make sure that she gets that to you. Do I have any other last minute questions before we wrap up? I'm trying not to let this go for more than 45 minutes, and we're right at 40 minutes into it. So does anybody have any last minute questions? No? All right. Thank you so much, everybody, and you make it a great afternoon.